welcome everyone to another Twitter Spaces hosted by Morningstar Ventures. Today, we are actually going to be diving deeper into a very big topic in the whole world and also in the Web3 space, namely the intersection between AI and blockchain and how it will impact the future of decentralization. So with us today to talk about this topic is the CEO of Covalent, Ganesh Swami. And for those of you who are new to our Twitter Spaces, my name is Njani. I'm in the content team of Morningstar Ventures, and I'm also your host for today's interview. Now, while you guys are joining and listening in, please feel free to add any questions in the comment section of this Twitter Spaces, or if you want to ask Ganesh a question directly, you can also request to speak and ask your question live for everyone to hear. All right, so now that all the housekeeping is aside, without further ado, let's get started on this exciting topic. Welcome, Ganesh. It's really great to have you on the Spaces today.
The pleasure's all mine. Excited to kick this off.
Yes, same. So let's kick it off actually with some introductions from your side. Could you please share a little bit more about who you are, what your background is, and what actually brought you into the crypto space?
Absolutely. Great place to start. So I'm Ganesh Swami. I'm one of the founders of Covalent. Covalent is a data infrastructure project, mostly focused on-chain data and AI use cases. By training, I'm a physicist, used to work on cancer drugs for about half my career before pivoting into data infrastructure in the Web2 world. And about 5 years ago, just randomly at a hackathon, I ended up building a tool to scrape on-chain data and offer that through Excel, because just from my experience, most data people, data analysts love to use Excel. And whatever the underlying data sources, it doesn't really matter. Excel is what the analysts use. And so brought in these transactions into Excel so you can create your pivot tables and so on, ended up winning that hackathon and then deciding to start Covalent. The word covalent comes from covalent bonds in chemistry, where we are binding blockchains and databases, or Web2 and Web3, or centralized systems and decentralized systems. So the vision for Covalent is to not really have to retrain or retool your people and your processes and the tooling that you have, but be able to access on-chain data completely seamlessly. So it's been a very fun ride, and that's my intro to into crypto. I got in for the tech. I was fascinated by the technology, but now what made me persist through the multiple ups and downs, the bulls and the bears, is I think crypto can be the solution to a lot of society's ailments today. So that's why I came in for the tech and stuck around for the impact it can have on society.
Cool, great story. Yeah, it's interesting that something like a hackathon can bring people into the space. I know that's a big one also for the developers, and a lot of people started that way. So very, very cool story of how you got into crypto. Speaking a little bit about staying in the space. So I've been asking a lot of our guests this who have been coming on in the past couple of weeks, given everything that happened in the US and also with the current market conditions. How are you feeling about being in crypto right now, given that Bitcoin has surpassed 100K? And how has this actually affected you and the project directly?
Yeah, it's a fantastic question. And Covalent really has two sides of a coin. On one side, we have the core product, and this is the Covalent API. We call it Gold Rush, all of the customers we have. And so that business, or that line of that phase of the company, is immune to the bull and the bear market cycles. In fact, our fastest growing months have always been during a bear market, because it gives you unfettered access to on-chain data. So it doesn't really matter because you still have to pay your taxes, you still have to do your P&L, you still have to build your wallet applications, portfolio tooling, NFT galleries, forensics. All of those use cases, they're not really tied to bull and bear market cycles. Now, on the other side, which is the token side, which is the CXT, which is the governance and staking token for the Covalent network. Now, obviously, there being an altcoin, we are impacted by the bull and the bear markets. So the token came out in 21 after a coinless sale and has had a really fun ride to $1 billion fully diluted valuation. and then back to the bottom because of a variety of like factors outside of our control, and then now back it's on a rise. Now the news with the election and the U.S. election, it took us actually quite by surprise because I wasn't prepared for a run from the 60s to 100K in a month. That is a pretty dramatic pump, and so wasn't really fully ready for that. And the minute that happened, essentially is the new regime. So what that meant is basically we had to go all in. I think the market's here, the opportunities here. And the thing about these bull market cycles is that time is not fungible, which means that one day you take a day off in the next, let's say, 60 days is not a day you can ever recoup. So days are like, you have to count them day by day. And so we're all in on new product lines, new opportunities, new exchange listings, just doubling down on our core narrative. So what the recent impact with what looks like a bull market is that it's just accelerated our timelines. We've never really pivoted in the last 5 years. We are like core data infrastructure. We have hundreds of paying customers, from enterprise to consumer use cases. So all the things are great, but just from a network, from a tokenization, from a capitalization perspective, I think this is like super exciting. And I feel like in the world is going to be reconfigured, and the hub for crypto is going to be two places in the world. One is Dubai. Dubai is where a lot of people are congregating. And the second, I think, is going to be in New York City. So that's what's going to happen. And I think we are mostly a US Canada based team, and we'll be spending a lot more time in onshore or nearshore to capitalize on the opportunities. But yeah, it's an exciting time regardless.
Super exciting. Yeah, I think you made some really great points. I love time is not fungible. I'm definitely going to keep that one in mind. It's true. Now is the time to really go and carpe diem every single day. There's no time for rest, especially if you're a founder in the crypto space. So I sympathize and also congratulate you at the same time. And yeah, we're in Dubai, obviously. So I'm not based in Dubai, but the team is based in Dubai, and there's a lot going on, a lot of great conferences. So definitely can speak from that side that there's huge hub developing there, and the warm weather obviously also helps. So you touched upon a lot of things, which is great because we're going to go deeper into those, including your roadmap and also the use cases. But let's take a couple steps back and really, could you tell us a bit more about this intersection that you are creating between Web3 data and AI at Covalent, and what really is the gap in the market that you are trying to solve?
Fantastic question. I think first off, AI and data is not a Web3 specific tailwind in the industry. It's a broader macro tailwind, which means that even in the Web2 world, traditional enterprise deployments, they're all actively investing and investigating into AI technologies. Now, specifically what crypto can offer is a couple of things. So point number one is that these AI agents, I feel, is perhaps the only thing that has a clear line of sight to product market fit. So let me clarify what that actually means. These products typically have, consumer deployments and enterprise deployments. And in the consumer deployment phase, obviously ChatGPT is one of the top tier applications today that has a lot of traction and a lot of revenue. But these are mostly consumer grade adoption at $20 a month. And they're at a really great run rate there. I think OpenAI is one of those iconic companies. But in the enterprise use cases, we haven't really seen much as of yet. There's been a lot of investment going into foundation models, a lot of investment going into proof of concepts and so on, but no real like critical problem being solved with AI today in the enterprise setting. Now, AI agents is something which is going to be a game changer. And so we've had an AI lab at Covalent for about 2 years now, investing in and building POCs and just trying to figure out, where it all fits. And then with AI agents, especially over the last, I would say, a couple of months, it's all starting to click. So specifically what this means is these AI agents are autonomous. And two things that make Web3 or crypto a natural fit for this. One is these AI agents require some kind of like wallet infrastructure, some kind of like financial system, and blockchains are the perfect rails for AI agents. There's a reason why all of the AI agents today, if they have to make payments or they have custody of assets, they use blockchains and crypto rails as opposed to a Wells Fargo bank or a US bank account. It doesn't really make sense. That crypto is the only native rails for this technology. The second piece that is natural to blockchain is a provenance layer. So what does this mean? Provenance is a trifecta of three things, which is what was done, so which is basically a commit or a hash of some piece of data. It may be accurate or may not be accurate. That's outside the scope of a blockchain. The second is when was this done? So you have the sign time for that. And the third is like who did it, and this would be the signature, the person who's signing that piece of data. And so if you want to keep these agents autonomous, what that means is that these agents have to be kept accountable. And there's no way you're going to trust an agent because these agents can hallucinate, the agents can make up stuff, the agents can lie to your face, if not backed by an immutable provenance layer. And that describes a blockchain. So our thesis at Covalent is that these AI agents seems like it's going to be the future. I'm very excited about it. The team is very excited about it. And every time we talk about AI agents, the community is very excited about it. But these AI agents, in order to be differentiated, in order to be personalizable, what they need is data. And all of the data will come from the blockchain. And the second piece is to make these AI agents verifiable. What that means is keep them accountable, make sure they're not hallucinating, make sure they're not making stuff up or not lying to your face. You will need this provenance layer. That's the second piece of things here. So if this could be either on-chain data or could be some kind of like off-chain data that is put on-chain through a commit or through a privacy preserving feature. So the thesis, back to the thesis, is that these AI agents need data. Covalent has terabytes of data, billions of rows of data. And the third thing is that most of the block space in the future will be agent consumption rather than human consumption. So the only way these agents can be autonomous and can work at a high frequency is if they're completely autonomous without the human in the loop. And so that is what is going to happen in the future. And I think this is a very exciting time to be building in crypto and /AI, the intersection. And I have a feeling that a lot of the core technologies that we're building in crypto are going to be adopted in the broader Web2 space, because I think that'll bring a lot of credibility to crypto. Because right now, a lot of crypto people talk about AI, but not a lot of AI people talk about crypto. So there's something of a mismatch there. And with a lot of the technologies, with the private key infrastructure, keeping these autonomous data infrastructure like Covalent, I think there's something to be said about this nexus. And it's a pretty exciting time to be building in the space.
Great answer. You covered a lot there. And what I wanted to actually, I saw you tweet about this as well, that you said that AI agents need to be differentiated and personalizable in the future. And while you were talking about, your thesis and everything that you guys have at Covalent and how that will essentially, back these AI agents, I couldn't help but notice that you mentioned if and when. So what's the issue here? Like, why aren't people in AI talking about crypto? What needs to happen, and what is the main challenge to bring us to this place that you're talking about? Like what should people be building basically to be able to get to this point that you're talking about a differentiated and personalizable future?
Yeah, so I think there's two factors here, right? One is I think the builders don't truly understand the pain of the solutions or the problems that they're intended to solve. So if you take an example of banking the unbanked, this is one of the core theses of these crypto systems. And if you think about someone like myself, for example, I've never really had a problem with opening a bank account or had challenges of interacting with the financial systems. So it's not really innate to me. I think the second piece is if you look at Bitcoin as a hedge against inflation and currency debasement, I've never lived in a place with hyperinflation. I can only speak for myself. Like, I've never been to Argentina or Venezuela, and places with hyperinflation. And so the U.S. dollar works. Yeah, okay, there is some inflation. The currency is being debased. It's not backed by anyone. These are not like top of mind for me, right? It's not like my piece of bread that I buy tomorrow is 2x more expensive. So I think fundamentally, a lot of the solutions being proposed are not in touch with the problems of society. Now, on the other hand, if you look at what has happened with society, is that the trust in these institutions has been eroding, specifically over the last like 10 or 15 years. And so everything you hear about from politicians, everything you hear about on the press, in the news media, around elections, around COVID, around these lockdowns, now that's planted a seed in people's minds. And so now people are seeking out alternate sources of news. This would go into Twitter, this would go into social media. And so your big news publications, for example, is not where people are getting the news. And so that shift is starting to happen. So I think it's just a matter of time before these crypto things become crucial and these immutable ledgers become crucial. And so that is really what is it's always this thing that slowly and then suddenly. So if you look at the adoption of any piece of technology, for example, the telephone took over 50 years before it got adoption. If you look at the internet has been around since the 60s, but in the 90s we had Amazon and all these guys start, and then the real adoption only really started in the late 2008 and so, right? That's around when I created my first Facebook account. So that was just 15 years ago. And so I think these technologies just take time. And so you just have like people like these problems, and the pain that people face from these problems are just brewing in the background. And at some point, the society is just not going to accept that what a politician or what a news publication says takes them at face value. So I think it's just a matter of time. And I think the time is ripe. A lot of us work in frontier technologies, and sometimes we underestimate how difficult it is to get adoption with these new technologies, and sometimes it just takes a while. So I think it's just a matter of time.
Yeah, definitely. I think you already went into a bit more of the technical aspect of it previously, but I agree. I do think that we're still very much in the infancy of all the spaces that we're talking about at the moment. So time, adoption, and a better UX is definitely what we'll be needing in the future. Going back to Covalent, you already talked about your heaps and heaps of terabytes of data, right? And you're obviously creating solutions for people, and you mentioned a bunch of use cases earlier. Could you maybe walk us through like the top cases that you've seen in the past years regarding Covalent?
Absolutely. So our core product today is a product called Gold Rush. And what Gold Rush does is it gives you programmatic access to on-chain data. This would be token balances, historical token balances. It could be action data, pricing data, NFTs, NFT market data like floor prices, and so on. So using these foundational building blocks, you're able to build a couple of solutions. We have a lot of traction in the wallet space. So if you take any kind of wallet like a MetaMask or XDeFi or Rainbow Wallet or Family Wallet, these are all very popular wallets. Most of these wallets I mentioned are actually powered by Covalent today. And so there you open up the wallet, the first thing you see is a list of your assets. So mostly these are ERC20 assets, and you need to have the logo, you have to have the amount, you have to have the spot price, you probably have to have the difference in the price over the last 24 hours. And then when you tap into one of those tokens, you're able to see the transfer in and transfer out, perhaps a P&L for that token. And so Covalent has an API for all of these use cases. Then the second thing would be maybe your NFTs. So it shows you a list of the NFTs. You have to render these images. A lot of these NFT images are unoptimized for mobile. They don't have thumbnails. And if you are downloading 10 megabyte images without thumbnails, it's just going to drain your battery. And that's very irresponsible and almost insulting to your mobile users. And so we provide a set of features that thumbnails these NFTs. And then when you tap into one of these NFTs, it gives you the floor price information, historical floor price. And so you're able to see how your portfolio of NFTs are doing. So that's another use case. And then, of course, transaction history. So we have a lot of traction with this taxation ERP accounting space. And so here, basically what you need is, given a wallet, get the entire transaction history of every single transaction, including all of the tokens that were transferred, all of the smart contract executions that happen, annotated with decoded information, annotated with pricing information, historical pricing information. And so now you can load this into your ERP, figure out your inventory management, figure out your P&L, pay your taxes, keep a watch list of things there. So we have probably a couple dozen customers in that space. Pretty much most taxation companies today use Covalent as their underlying building block to access on-chain data. And then there are some of these frontier use cases like forensics, fraud detection, alerting, monitoring. And then what we've recently seen over the last 6 months or so are these AI use cases. And so this is where we're going to double down with the agents and so on. So the core thesis there is that these LLMs require tons of data in order to train the LLM and fine-tune these LLMs. And so they're just slurping all of this transaction data and creating these models that are personalized for your specific use cases. So there are probably a couple dozen companies using Covalent data set for their AI use cases. So those are broadly the use cases. And if you go back into what the agents will do, which is what we're going to release sometime in the new year, are going back to these DeFi use cases, these NFT use cases, perhaps some GameFi use cases, all of the emerging use cases on the blockchain. And so that's generally what it is. So every new piece of infrastructure just improves the quality of these applications, these use cases being built. But yeah, that's historically what our footprint has been in the market.
Very cool. And just out of curiosity, given that you started sort of in the healthcare space, are you thinking of also integrating anything there? Because I know data and healthcare and also AI are a big one.
I think it's a matter of time. Yeah, for sure. I think right now it's mostly DeFi. We're building a horizontal infrastructure platform. So it's a matter of time. I think healthcare has other kind of regulatory and privacy requirements, which maybe the technology is just not ready today. So I would say before that, I would say like the energy sector is something we can look into. So I think definitely finance, TradFi is like ongoing right now. Energy, carbon credits, securitization of meter readings, all of that can be on the blockchain. I would say intellectual property and copyrights and media is the next thing. Keeping all of these politicians accountable. I would say government and politics, banking in itself is a huge. So I would think healthcare would come much later in terms of adoption. If you just think historically, just MRI, for example, magnetic resonance imaging, it started as NMR, nuclear magnetic resonance, back in 60s. So it took about 45, 50 years before it started to become consumer grade. So that's typically the adoption cycles in that space. So it's one of the reasons I left pharmaceuticals. I couldn't wait around for 10 years for the drugs to get through clinical trials.
Can imagine.
In crypto, it's like 6-month cycles, right?
Exactly.
So I think those things just take time. But yeah.
For sure, we're like cats with 9 lives in crypto.
Exactly.
We've all lived like 100 years plus. And I've only been in the space for like 4 years. So yeah, I can tell you that there's some lines on my face that weren't there before. But back to talking about all of the verticals actually that Covalent can go into. So out of curiosity, I mean, your user base is going to be growing immensely if you're tapping into also GameFi and DeFi and NFTs. How are you planning to handle potential scalability issues?
So we're building a horizontal platform, right? So there's nothing specific about a use case or a vertical that our product needs to optimize. Now, obviously, your solution engineering and your go-to-market has to change. You need experts from the specific industries. But from a scaling perspective, the engineering team just ensures that the technology scale. Now, one reality which I haven't often shared is that our entire stack has to be rebuilt every 18 months or so. And the reason for that is that these blockchain systems are becoming so massive that the scale that is required has to be rebuilt. They cannot be incremental updates to the technology. And so, when we started building out the infrastructure in like 2019, there's like Binance was just getting started, right? These hot wallets are just getting started. There was no DeFi, there was no NFT, there's no stable coins. And so as these things were starting, as more DeFi, more action was happening on chain, as more price discovery was happening on chain, you have to just adapt to those new, I would say, restructuring of the industry. So I think it's just a matter of, I would say, a level of consciousness where you're able to understand what's going on with the specific, and then just doubling down on those use cases.
Great. I mean, also really interesting to hear that you guys are you're developing and pivoting, or not pivoting, sorry, every 18 months. That's really actually insightful. I actually wanted to also circle back. We're almost at the end of the session, by the way. It really passed by fast. But I wanted to circle back on what you were talking about in terms of your roadmap and things that you're developing. Could you share with us a little bit of Alpha and also your upcoming roadmap, what we can expect from Covalent in the next couple of months?
Absolutely. So there's three specific things I want to point out to. First is all about AI. So I don't want to belabor the point. We've spoken a lot about AI. So AI agent technology, we're going to do a lot of stuff on that front in the new year, including like an SDK announcement in the next like 48 hours or so. The second thing I would say that is pretty important is just from a fundamentals perspective. We have revenue on chain, we have paid API calls, we have hundreds of paying customers, and I think the industry needs to start evaluating projects based on utility and fundamentals as opposed to just memes and vibes. And so we want to tell a better story around our traction and how this is a core piece of infrastructure. And I know our competitor in the space that's about 20 times bigger from a valuation perspective actually has less revenue and less traction and less data than Covalent today. So that story needs to get out. So we're definitely bringing on partners who can tell that aspect of the Covalent story. And then the third thing is our data availability layer. So this is known as the Ethereum Wayback Machine. It's a way to get historical data in a decentralized fashion because as these blockchains become faster and they get more throughput, what's happening is that they're starting to chuck out historical data. And so we have a solution there. And so expect some news in Q1 around that. So we've introduced a new novel piece of technology called a light client. So you can now participate in the Covalent network without running these big full nodes. So that's super, super exciting. We have a test net. There's about 8,000 people lined up to be on the test net, and we're onboarding a few hundred people every couple of weeks. So just getting through that list and getting to mainnet should be a big focus for us in Q1. So yeah, those are the three big, I would say, pieces I can share right now. And yeah, so just better, faster, cheaper data infrastructure. It's just the core drivers for Covalent.
Great, super amazing alphas, better, faster, cheaper. We love it on all aspects. So I'm coming to my second to last question before we end the session, and it's actually a little bit more about you, not about Covalent. You as a founder, you as a CEO, have probably seen some ups and some downs as well. We have listeners that tune into our podcast. Also, future founders, they're innovators, they're entrepreneurs. So could you give us 3 tips that you would give these people who are building a project in Web3 and maybe even specifically in the AI and data space?
Absolutely. So point number 1 is build with conviction. So you have to be clear on what you're building will outlive the market cycles, right? You should be focusing on that. If you build something for the bull market, then what are you going to do during a bear market, right? So that's generally where I would think about. A lot of people focus on the new and the fancy and the novel, shiny items, but you should focus on things that don't change, not things that change. And so like data infrastructure, nobody's going to come to me in 5 years and say, hey, give me stale data, give me slow data, give me expensive data. So better, faster, cheaper is like we just continue to work on it. So it's not really market cycle dependent. So that's point number 1. Focus and build with conviction. Point number 2 is that you probably have some internal fear, and so you have to at some point as a builder come to terms with that fear and either overcome it or address it or something of that sort. So for me, for example, I'm just sharing this story where for me the fear is that we would run out of money and then we'd be thrown on the streets with nothing to show for it after like a couple of years. And then I was actually quite afraid of running out of money. And actually, what you should be doing in a bull market is actually deplete your resources and go all in. And so I had to come to terms with that realization. So a piece of advice that a mentor gave me is solve the money problem, and everything else will fix itself. So I figured out a way to solve, running out of runway. And this includes bringing on investors who believe in the future, including, our partnership with MSV, right? This partnership goes back 5 years. And so, figuring out the money problem through revenue, because that's customers, you're solving a genuine problem. Customers value that. Customers want to pay you money. And so that's how I came to terms with it. And then point number 3 is that the cycles are like what goes down has to go up. That's generally what I would say. So from your psychology, surround yourself with people who are not really traders in the sense that they look at every tick and then their psychology goes up and down and they get paranoid and stuff, right? Focus on people who are optimistic. And this could include your family, right? A lot of our families are supporting of whatever we do, whatever initiatives we take on. So I would say just surround yourself with the right people. So that's the 3 things I would say. A lot of the problems that so what is that? The suffering is bigger in the head than in reality. That's a Buddhist quote. And so a lot of these problems you think are world ending are actually just in your head. If you have the right mindset, you can overcome all of these.
Great tips. So to summarize for everyone, we had build with conviction, conquer your fears, which specifically to you was, building runway financially, and then
absolutely. So point number 1 is build with conviction. So you have to be clear on what you're building will outlive the market cycles, right? You should be focusing on that. If you build something for the bull market, then what are you going to do during a bear market, right? So that's generally where I would think about. A lot of people focus on the new and the fancy and the novel, shiny items, but you should focus on things that don't change, not things that change. And so like data infrastructure, nobody's going to come to me in 5 years and say, hey, give me stale data, give me slow data, give me expensive data. So better, faster, cheaper is like we just continue to work on it. So it's not really market cycle dependent. So that's point number 1. Focus and build with conviction. Point number 2 is that you probably have some internal fear, and so you have to at some point as a builder come to terms with that fear and either overcome it or address it or something of that sort. So for me, for example, I'm just sharing this story where for me the fear is that we would run out of money and then we'd be thrown on the streets with nothing to show for it after like a couple of years. And then I was actually quite afraid of running out of money. And actually, what you should be doing in a bull market is actually deplete your resources and go all in. And so I had to come to terms with that realization. So a piece of advice that a mentor gave me is solve the money problem, and everything else will fix itself. So I figured out a way to solve, running out of runway. And this includes bringing on investors who believe in the future, including, our partnership with MSV, right? This partnership goes back 5 years. And so, figuring out the money problem through revenue, because that's customers, you're solving a genuine problem. Customers value that. Customers want to pay you money. And so that's how I came to terms with it. And then point number 3 is is that the cycles are like what goes down has to go up. That's generally what I would say. So from your psychology, surround yourself with people who are not really traders in the sense that they look at every tick and then their psychology goes up and down and they get paranoid and stuff, right? Focus on people who are optimistic, and this could include your family, right? A lot of our families are supporting of whatever we do, whatever initiatives we take on. So I would say just surround yourself with the right people. So yeah, that's the three things I would say. A lot of the problems that so what is that? The suffering is bigger in the head than in reality. That's a Buddhist quote. And so a lot of these problems you think are world ending are actually just in your head. If you have the right mindset, you can overcome all of these.
Great tips. So to summarize for everyone, we had build with conviction, conquer your fears, which specifically to you was, building runway financially, and then surround yourselves with the right people because what goes down must come up and you need the believers around you. I really like the last one, especially. I think it's really important to have the support of believers around you, specifically when you're in crypto, where there's a lot of non-believers, unfortunately. Um, Ganesh, that was a really great final takeaway for our listeners. Just as my very last question, I mean, there's a lot being built, and obviously Covalent is doing an amazing job as well, representing crypto. But are there any other projects that you're specifically excited about at the moment and you have your eye on?
I can only talk about the infrastructure space because that's where most of my focus is. And you look at a lot of the stuff with the Bitcoin L2s, if you look at the restaking projects, you look at the new iteration of oracles, look at all the AI infrastructure with access to GPUs. I don't think there's enough time in the day to like just look through all the innovation that is happening. So I think those are the big fields that I'm specifically interested in, and that's just my bias. So I can't speak to any consumer use cases or gaming use cases uh, or like entertainment use cases. That's not my focus. But yeah, on the infrastructure side, that's what I'm excited about.
Great. Yeah, we're also excited about infra, but gaming as well. But infra is always a great space within Web3. Ganesh, thank you again so much. It's been great having you as a guest. A great 30-minute chat. For everyone that's listening, make sure to check out at Covalent_HQ on Twitter for the upcoming announcement that Ganesh had mentioned earlier. Also follow at Gain5H for Ganesh's Twitter page for updates on there. You post a lot of great stuff as well. And as said, we host these Twitter spaces every couple of weeks with founders from our portfolio companies. So make sure to tune in. And thank you, everyone. We will have the recording out on wherever you listen to your podcasts in a week from today. Bye, and have a great rest of your day.
Thank you, guys. Really enjoyed this, and have a great evening.
Thank you. Speak soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye. Thank you. Speak soon.
Bye, guys.
Bye.